Behind every locked door lies a story the world was never meant to hear. Welcome to Behind Bars TV, where we uncover the hidden realities of the world's toughest prisons, untold inmate experiences, and the systems built to contain them. From supermax facilities to forgotten penitentiaries, we reveal the truth behind concrete walls and razor wire. This is not fiction. This is the world behind bars. They call themselves La Mara Salvatrucha, the most feared gang in the Western Hemisphere. Born on the streets of Los Angeles, raised in the prisons of El Salvador, and spread like wildfire through the veins of Central America. Their soldiers are teenagers. Their code is blood, and their empire stretches from the barrios to the borders. To outsiders, they're a gang. To those who live under them, they're the government. Birth of a monster. MS-13 began not in Central America, but in California. Thousands of Salvadorans fled a brutal civil war and landed in the gang-ridden neighborhoods of Los Angeles. They came seeking peace and found another kind of war. In the streets of Pico Union, young Salvadoran refugees formed their own group for protection. They called themselves La Mara Salvatrucha, the street-smart Salvadorans. What started as defense soon became domination. By the early 1990s, MS-13 was at war with older gangs 18th Street, Bloods, and Crips. They adopted machetes instead of guns, tattoos instead of flags. Violence was their language. Fear was their signature. Exported violence. The U.S. thought deportation would solve its gang problem. Instead, it exported it. Between 1996 and 2005, the U.S. deported more than 100,000 criminals to Central America. Among them, the founders of MS-13. They were sent home, but home no longer existed. El Salvador was rebuilding after war. Weak police, no jobs, fragile democracy. Into that chaos came trained killers with American street experience. They brought the code, the tattoos, and the war. And Central America became their new battlefield. The territories. Every block became a border. Every alley a front line. MS-13 divided cities into invisible zones of control. You know where their world begins and where it ends, by who's still alive. They extorted small businesses, controlled transport routes, and turned neighborhoods into mini-states. They don't just run the streets. They run fear. The economy of fear. MS-13's power isn't just violence, it's economics. Every store, bus, and home pays rent. Those who refuse disappear. In MS-13 territory, fear is the only legal currency. The gang collects millions of dollars a month in extortion. They invested in weapons, safe houses, and bribes. Money doesn't just buy bullets. It buys silence. The code of blood. Every member swears loyalty with blood. Initiation means committing violence, sometimes against strangers, sometimes against friends. You don't join MS-13. You're baptized in it. Their motto, Mata Controla Domina, kill, control, dominate. Once you're in, there's only one way out. Death. Prisons of power. El Salvador tried to contain MS-13 by locking them up. But inside, the gang found something unexpected, freedom. They turned their cells. MS-13 reorganized from inside the walls. The government had gathered their leaders in one place and accidentally built them a headquarters. Outside, the police wore the uniforms. Inside, the prisoners gave the orders. The prisons became kingdoms. And the kings ruled from within. Mano Dura, the Iron Fist. In 2003, the Salvadoran government declared war on the gangs. They called it Mano Dura, the Iron Fist. They thought fear could crush fear. Tattoos were criminalized. Thousands were arrested on sight. Prisons overflowed. But instead of ending the gang, Mano Dura made it stronger. Locked together, MS-13 members trained, recruited, and strategized. The Iron Fist didn't break MS-13. It forged it. The Shadow Network. By the late 2000s, MS-13 had evolved beyond street violence. It became a transnational criminal enterprise. They learned from cartels. They learned from governments. Then they learned to act like both. MS MS-13 used migrant routes as corridors for smuggling and extortion. Every bus, every border crossing, taxed, controlled, or monitored. In parts of Central America, the government collects taxes, but MS-13 collects fear. The political deal. By 2012, the Salvadoran government made a desperate move. It secretly negotiated a truce with MS-13. If you can't kill them, you deal with them. Murders dropped for a while, but the price was power. MS-13 gained privileges inside prisons and political protection outside them. They learned something new. Fear wins territory, but politics wins immunity. When the truce ended, killings doubled overnight. The deal had given the gang what it wanted most: legitimacy. MS-13 never left America. While the world focused on Central America, the gang quietly rebuilt in U.S. suburbs. Long Island, Maryland, Virginia, California. They came back with new recruits. American-born, bilingual, and invisible. They used immigrant communities as cover, targeting their own for silence. Extortion, drug trade, and recruitment all under the radar. It's not an invasion. It's an infection, one the U.S. created, deported, and now fears again. The prison kingdom. MS-13 doesn't just survive prison, it thrives there. Cells become offices. Guards become errand boys. From behind bars, they issue orders that control thousands outside. When the bars closed, the borders opened. Each prison block has its own ranfla, a council of elders. They decide who lives, who dies, and where the money flows. The outside world thinks they're inmates. Inside, they call themselves generals. This is the real headquarters of MS-13, not the streets, not the barrios. It's the cages. Sombra Negra, the Black Shadow. In the early 2000s, whispers began to spread about a secret group. Sombra Negra, the Black Shadow. They were police by day and executioners by night. They hunted gang members across El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. No trials, no mercy. They called it justice. The law called it murder. The people called it survival. For every gang member executed, 2 more took his place. Violence begot violence. And soon, no one knew who was hunting who. The families of fear. Behind every statistic is a family. A mother who pays rent so her child can walk to school. A father who hides his teenage son to keep him from recruitment. In the lands ruled by MS-13, innocence is a luxury, and silence is insurance. Tens of thousands flee north each year, not for opportunity, but for survival. They're not migrants. They're refugees from a war the world refuses to name. The gospel and the gun. In recent years, religion has become the only escape, literally. If you renounce MS-13, you can leave the gang. But only if you truly find God. They trade machetes for Bibles and hope the devil believes them. Some conversions are real, others strategic, a way to survive under a new label, the Christians. For some, salvation is spiritual. For others, it's camouflage. The church offers forgiveness, but MS-13 offers memory. And memory, in their world, can kill. The betrayal. No gang survives without betrayal. And for MS-13, betrayal means death. They say loyalty is thicker than blood. But at MS-13, they're the same thing. Inside prison, one whisper can start a war. Outside, one phone call can erase a family. They don't just kill traitors. They erase them. Names scrubbed, graves unmarked, memories forbidden. The network of shadows. In the silence of the night, the world of MS-13 hums with hidden communication. It's not the sound of words, it's the rhythm of control. Every tap, every vibration, every coded symbol carries an order. They don't need internet. They built their own. Across Central America, MS-13 leaders communicate through smuggled phones, encrypted codes, and middlemen known as paisas. Orders travel faster than the government's intelligence. One message from a cell in San Salvador can end a life in Guatemala within hours. The network stretches beyond prison walls, into neighborhoods, across borders, through families. Each contact, each favor, each debt, all stitched together in a web no one can fully map. The world calls them criminals. But in their own system, they're administrators, running a shadow state with perfect efficiency. Blood and business. MS-13's brutality hides a cold calculation. Behind every murder is a motive: money, control, reputation. Violence is the advertisement. Business is the goal. The gang's network moves through small, legitimate businesses, bakeries, transport lines, even churches. Their economy thrives on fear, but operates like a corporation. They tax the living, bury the disobedient, and invest in loyalty. Their money flows into real estate, vehicles, and international smuggling routes. The U.S. Treasury estimates millions laundered yearly through shell companies and remittances. For every gun they buy, there's a receipt, and for every murder, a message. MS-13 learn from cartels. Control the flow, not the product. They dominate transport, communication, and distribution. The arteries of chaos. The war of the state. In 2022, El Salvador's new president, Nayib Bukele, launched the largest anti-gang offensive in Latin American history. Tens of thousands were arrested. Prisons overflowed. Entire cities went silent overnight. For the first time, fear switched sides. The government called it La Guerra contra las Maras, the war on gangs. Human rights groups called it something else: mass incarceration. Bukele promised safety, but safety built on fear still smells like blood. In public, El Salvador's homicide rate dropped to record lows. But in the shadows, questions remain. Where are the disappeared? Who decides guilt? When you fight monsters long enough, you risk becoming one. The cost of silence. Silence is the only survival tactic left. Speak, and you vanish. Stay quiet, and you live another day. In Central America, truth is the most dangerous language. Reporters, pastors, and social workers risk their lives daily. They document, protest, or help victims, and disappear in retaliation. The world demands evidence. The evidence dies before it speaks. The silence extends beyond fear. It becomes culture. Children learn early. Don't stare. Don't talk. Don't remember. This isn't just a gang problem. It's generational trauma written in the language of whispers. Kingdom of Ashes. After decades of bloodshed, governments claim victory. MS-13 is weakened, but not gone. It never disappears. It adapts. Empires don't die. They change uniforms. Many of the old leaders are dead or imprisoned. But the new generation is quieter, smarter, harder to see. They use phones, politics, and influence instead of blades. They learned the lesson the world refused to hear. Fear is the most sustainable business. The cycle repeats, pain passed down like inheritance. For every wall built, another generation finds a way around it. You can cage a man, but you can't cage a legend. La Mara Salvatrucha, born from exile, raised in prisons, baptized in blood. A warning carved across borders, and a mirror of what happens when a society forgets its poor. What you just saw is more than a story. It's a reality lived by thousands behind bars. If you believe in uncovering the truth, the kind hidden behind concrete walls and silence, then join us. Subscribe to Behind Bars TV and never miss a chapter in the world's most dangerous stories. Until next time, stay aware, stay informed, and remember, freedom and confinement are sometimes only a wall apart.